gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. Imagine after years of lessons and learning and healing and listening to the soft call of the universe, it all comes together. You see it all. You see your path and your purpose. You know your potential, why you have your gift. You've done the work to put the pieces together. You understand how to use your gifts to really help others, to help them all the way through a process. You've moved beyond sort of applying band-aids in your healing work to really shifting things with others, shifting things deep within them. You've grown your healing practice in a way that supports your life. The fear or sabotage pattern that you've been in no longer runs your decision-making. And you're part of a community of spiritual leaders. Not only are you living the spiritual life in your everyday life and in your business and with your family and with your community, you get invited to podcasts and to co-host retreats. You're so centered in your power and the gift that you are, that you actually begin to give to others in a bigger way. That you're actually seeing the changes that you've wanted for a long time in your life, and you're seeing changes in your client's life. It's a very exciting dream and a place where I think a lot of people believe that it's much further off than it actually can be when we actually decide we want it. Today, I want to share 5 ways to be this next level healer as we deep dive into the second part of Shaman School's 4-part framework of development, and that is helping others. Once you've learned how to navigate your own spiritual journey and move through your own healing process and align with what you want, you'll start growing your gifts and your awareness. And this is where we work on developing our ability to help others in our curriculum. Because when you learn something new, you'll start to see it everywhere. And also, you can begin to apply your learning to help others as well. I've shared this before, but it's a huge part of really helping others and stepping into spiritual leadership is both to continue to learn and train and grow ourselves. So there's a way that the power really comes in from learning from others who are further down the path, and at the same time, teaching those that are just a couple steps behind us what we are learning right now. It's interesting. One of my spiritual gifts is actually growing other people's spiritual gifts. And a piece of that that's been coming on lately is actually, I've noticed I'm starting to pick up on spiritual gifts, like they're coming into my field or coming into my awareness before I do a Shaman School interview. So what that looks like is like a week or two before I meet somebody in an interview, I'll actually start noticing the gifts that they come in with. I usually don't. I didn't even notice the pattern until recently, but it's happened so many times now that I am aware of it. So one example is I was taking a walk one day, and then I just got this little like piece of information that was very specific. And it was like, that person is going to die at this specific age. And it caught me because it was odd for me. Like I've never gotten information like that before, definitely not like specific information around death. And I remember really feeling like that was interesting, hard for me not to notice. But I remember feeling like this feels like this teaching isn't about that I know this about that person. It's something else, but I wasn't sure what it was. And then about a week later, I got in an interview with a woman, and it turns out this is one of her gifts. She has for years been experiencing information like this, where she gets very clear information and then it becomes true. And there's a way she's been really interacting with beings that are in between crossing over, that are seeking help to cross over or have information to share before they cross over. And so, one of the questions was like, I really relate to, because for a long time, I was really aware of my gifts, but I just thought they were neat. I didn't think they actually meant anything. I definitely didn't know what to do with them. And this is one of the places where I'm honestly really proud of in our program in Shaman School is we help you integrate your unique gifts into a practice. Because oftentimes we do have like pretty wild gifts. We just don't really know how to use them. Right. And so just sort of spitballing here, but, one of the places I could see for this particular person is, it's like learning to help others and use our gifts in that way, is often less about like offering the gifts directly and more about creating containers where our gifts come out naturally. So it's likely that putting her particular gift to practice will look like having a program or an offer that maybe provides support tools. What will probably happen for her is when she does that, she'll probably sort of subconsciously be attracting people who are going to be losing a loved one soon. And they'll probably be attracted to her and her container, not because she's like, hey, I know this is going to happen for you, but because them as clients know internally, like innately, that they need something from her. And so what she'll be doing in her practice is actually preparing people with the tools that they need for what is about to come in their life. This happened again where I noticed I had like a few deja vu experiences, which I've had before, they've come and gone, but same thing. It was just like, it wasn't something completely new, but I had a few of them enough that it kind of stuck out. And it was sort of like, wonder why I've had like a lot of deja vu experiences all of a sudden. And then that was so interesting because then I ended up meeting another woman who was just sort of started sharing that when she was young, she would have like extreme deja vu. It was almost like prolonged, where like a period of 10 minutes would pass where she knew exactly what the people around her were going to say, like to the exact words. And of course, she was little when this started to happen. And so that was really scary and disorienting. And so I was like, that's fascinating. Maybe that's why I've been having the deja vu. Maybe that's when I started to notice the pattern of like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm picking stuff up in the field about people's gifts before I interact with them. And this one was especially interesting because then I met her and she gave me a little bit more information about what that deja vu gift really means. And then right after that, I interviewed another person for Shaman School who actually is in a pretty big and pretty vulnerable, like awakening experience. And she's almost experiencing the deja vu like all of the time, where she's like seeing and hearing everything. So it's also disorienting. And, it's like life was able to give me the pieces that I needed so that when I met with that woman, we could work on some of the things to help her sort of ground and recenter so that she can use this gift in a way that wasn't working against her. Sometimes it's really subtle. This just happened. My partner is away currently. And one evening I heard the foyer door open on our building. And when the door opened, I was just like, oh, it's him. But then I was like, oh yeah, he's not here. That's not him. And then I was outside a little bit later, and somebody pulled up to the intersection in the same car that he drives. And so I saw it and I had that same thought. I was like, oh, is that him? And then I was like, no, goofy, he's not here. And what was so strange is that car actually sat at the stop sign for like a couple of minutes, like awkward amount of time. It wasn't just like a quick pause. It was like the car turned off, the engine turned off, and they just sat there. And I was like, oh, it's trying to signal something to me right now. And then I was like, oh, this is probably like he might be thinking about me or vice versa. Like our energy is trying to communicate and it's showing up in the physical world. And then I happened to go inside and saw that he had texted me right around that same moment. So that was like affirmation of what I was thinking was true. And then right after that, like a couple of days later, someone shared the same experience that they had, where they're like, oh, I was thinking about this person. And then I think it was specifically the same thing where she saw the car that they drove and wondered if that was affirmation, that they were thinking about her also. And I was like, from my experience, yes. I mean, I just experienced this exact thing. And it makes me wonder, is that one of her gifts of being able to bring the energetic world into like physical reality? So when we talk about helping others, this is about developing your gifts and how to use them. And also about stepping through the fear that they hurt you, that your gifts are hurtful to you, right? And I've experienced that myself. And I've experienced that from a lot of people where, if you're extra sensitive, it feels like you're extra vulnerable. And, if you pick up on other energies really easily, then does that also mean that you would pick up on bad energies? Like if you're open to working with spirits, does that mean that bad spirits will come in too? So a lot of the path of growing your gifts is both about learning what your gifts are, like your specific gifts. This is not about, being psychic or a medium or the clairs. I mean, it includes that, but that's not what your gifts actually are. Right? So we're looking at what are your specific gifts? Who are you here to help? What is your unique way of working? How can we grow those gifts and grow your confidence in them? And develop them and your trust in them so you can step into that next level of your healing power and help others in a bigger way and a more authentic way. But to get you started, I want to share 5 ways for you to be a next level healer, 5 ways that we can work on helping others. So the first one is, of course, to listen with your heart. It's said that if you're not really listening, if you're just waiting to respond. And of course, healing work isn't telling people what to do or what they're doing wrong, right? This is a big difference between coaching and healing work. And again, there's a lot of crossover and they work really beautifully together. but it's not just about saying the thing that the person needs to do. It's about hearing what's below the surface of what they say and feeling what they're feeling and locating what's happening in their body and helping to turn them towards that so they can look at it themselves. The most powerful healing work doesn't come from a plan or a formula. Step 1, step 2, step 3, or diagnosing that they need a soul retrieval, or seeing what they need and telling them. It comes from full presence. Being fully present to what they're saying but not saying. Hearing between the lines. Seeing the pathway that individual is on and where they are on their cycle, while also seeing the same for yourself, where you are on your path and in your cycle, and where we are in the meta, in the world. And it's really presence that allows us to see all of those things at one time and be able to guide others and deliver them information and create an experience so they can actually understand and feel it in their body too. Number 2, get comfortable with discomfort. One of the hardest things for most healers, or for most people, is to see someone who needs help and not immediately run to the rescue. I mean, yeah, of course we need to help one another, but the job of the healer is to help someone who feels down, help them remember how to stand up. And versus like propping them up on their own. And oftentimes that means holding space and holding stillness in the discomfort. In your healing work, you'll also be in situations that are uncomfortable for you. And that's one of the ways to step into this next level, is where you want to run to actually stay. And that sort of opens the pathways and demonstrates for the other that the thing they're trying to get away from, because it feels uncomfortable, that it's actually safe to stay there. That creates such a deep shift when we learn to stay with the place that's uncomfortable. Number 3, go ahead and look. Our biggest blocks appear when we're closest to a breakthrough. The reason we get stuck is because we don't want to face the fear. And as humans, we're actually created to stand in the face of everything that's beautiful and horrible and be a witness, to see it. We can't actually move through our fear if we don't ever look at it. And the way that you can apply this in your healing work, of course, is continuing with your self-healing work, but also it means turning your clients towards the thing they're also avoiding. And being able to hold support even in their discomfort, and safety even in their distrust, to allow them to take a look and be willing to see what's hidden in the cracks. Being able to see what they're working really hard to cover up. and with compassion, holding space for them to actually look. Number 4, trust your intuition. Your intuition has always guided you. But there are still doubts sometimes. And the biggest part of the healer's journey is diving into that deep self-trust. That things might not make sense, but the more you listen and find that your inner knowing is guiding you in the right direction, the more you build trust. And that means the more clarity you're actually bringing to those that you're helping. And of course, that also means that indirectly you're teaching them how to trust themselves. And number 5 is to stand in your boundaries. To see someone who you believe is suffering or that looks like suffering, or maybe that person believes they are suffering, for you to be able to see that and not actually take on the suffering as your own is a challenge for many healers and empaths, right? So part of learning how to help others is, of course, learning how to guide others without taking on their stuff. It's also about learning how to say no to helping others. There's a way that healers and empaths tend to be very open. And this is how, too open, all the way open, which is how they often experience being attacked. But it's also how they experience safety because it's how they read what's coming. So there's a way that a lot of us are taught that the best thing to do is put yourself last. And so we end up feeling like we're supposed to save and rescue everybody, that if we say no to somebody, that they can't get help. And good healers aren't just love and light and yes. They're shadow and fire and stone. So learning how to help others in a more powerful way means knowing where your boundary ends and another's begins, so you can stay in your own and be a clear and confident guide. When you get experience doing all of these things, you'll gain confidence doing all these things. You'll move through your own discomfort of changing the old way you did things and moving into the new way, which helps you become more evolved, embodied, and powerful guide for others. So it's through the second part of our 4-part framework, helping others, that we specifically help you grow your gifts and learn to be a better guide, one that actually empowers others instead of nicing things over. One that helps others understand how they can heal themselves instead of reiterating this old belief that one person knows more than someone else. And we teach the specific practice that you can use, to offer this for your clients in hour-long sessions or whatever it is that you need in your business. And of course, we all do it in different ways. And this is one of the places that I love working the most. And I really feel like it's different than a lot of other programs, where a lot of other programs sort of teach this copy and paste method, and they don't actually make room for your unique style and your unique way of offering your work and providing your spiritual gifts. And so we create a way of facilitating this that allows you to test the edges of your new gifts that are coming in and how they're growing, without having to feel like you are testing it on clients you currently have, or being afraid of what the gifts might mean or do. You can use them in a place that's safe, where we can have feedback and allows us to grow our own belief in them and understand through experience how to use them. So it's a place I'm really proud of in our program, and I really love, on a personal note, helping healers develop. So I'd love to hear from you about maybe some of the spiritual gifts that you have that you're curious about and how they show up in your life. Do you know how to use them? Is that something you would like to do? Is that something that we help others do? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining me today. See you next time. Have you been hearing the call to expand your spiritual gifts and step into your next level of conscious leadership? If you're a coach, healer, or a spiritual leader, you can learn more about Shaman School and growing your spiritual business on our website, holtonhealingarts.com, or send me a DM at Holton Healing Arts. Welcome to today's Member Query episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question comes from one of our Facebook group members. And the question is how to tap into the field for information. And, one of the easiest ways is through journey work. And just as a reminder, if you are new to journey work, I have a free guide for you for how to journey and how to use journey work to build a thriving life and business. So you can find that free guide on our website or send me a DM. I also have more resources for you on the website as well. But what I want to share today is how to tap into the field for information. The easiest and most direct way for leading powerful ceremonies and group work is to actually tune into what it is that you are feeling. Because what you are feeling is just a sort of like a piece or a fractal of what's happening in the field as a whole. And so if you can get clearer and clearer for yourself about what it is that you're experiencing and feeling right now, and speak to that as directly and clearly as you can, this creates really powerful guidance for others. It affirms what other people are experiencing, and then you get the reflection back to affirm what you're feeling. So each time that you check in with yourself deeper and deeper, you're actually reading the field more and more. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose. Until next time, journey on.